Hello everybody, this is Chris Barin, your Photoshop instructor. Today we have a lot of designs from Discord, so we're gonna go through them one by one at a pretty fast pace. Let's jump straight into it. The first design is something regarding healthcare. So this is something regarding a hospital or something along those lines. This is a pretty generic stock image, you should avoid using that. Ooh, some pretty nasty drop shadows here, and this stroke is actually terrible. Titles, repetitive titles, a huge logo. Okay, so these social media icons, man. So this is probably a 2-star design. I can see that, several things are pretty decent. This area, for example, is pretty good. You understand that you need a headline and a sub-headline plus a call to action button. So you have several parts that do make sense, but it shows a lack of attention to detail. First of all, let's just jump straight into it with these icons. These are absolutely horrible. I mean, Flat Icon has so many beautiful icon packs that this is just lazy. It just screams that you got bored and you didn't take the time to actually do your research. So this is the number one thing you can do. Get beautiful icon packs from flaticon.com or whatever else website you want to use. These colored ones should never be used. If you plan on using monochromatic icons like these ones and these ones here, you gotta stick with it. You don't ever mix and match, and especially in this combination, because red and green never work unless it's Santa Claus. So this combination right here combined with these icons right here, that makes no sense. So you really gotta make sure you follow my advice from my courses, because I often tell you that mixing different icon styles is never a good idea. This logo right here is again an absolutely terrible choice. What you should do is you gotta go on teamforest.net, which is a template site that provides templates for WordPress and whatnot, and then look at their footers. In general, they have some beautiful footers, very standard, pretty generic, but 3 to 4 columns that look pretty great. Generic in terms of it's not something that's custom made for this particular website, for a particular client, but in this situation, it totally works. Just looking at what you're doing right here, anything that you're gonna take from Team Forest is gonna look that much better. Never use caps lock in body text. That's a big no-no. Never use a black stroke. If you plan on using a stroke in this type of situation, what you have to do is get a very, very light gray. And when I'm talking very light gray, I'm all the way in the top left side, so somewhere along those lines. Yeah, so something like that, obviously now not as thick, probably 2 pixels, that would work well. And I saw another mistake right here. Considering your background is gray, your base should be white, pure white. And when you plan on doing a drop shadow, you have to be careful with your settings. Let's go with 90%. Let's go with pure black actually. Let's go with, let's see. Okay. And now I'm slowly toning it down. Something like that. Let's place it on the left so you can compare it. Maybe even less than that. Yeah, so somewhere along these lines. If you plan on using a pretty substantial drop shadow, you could actually just disable the stroke for the cleaner look. It really depends on what you want to do, because you can also do something like this, right? And then by keeping the distance set at 1 pixel, the shadow is going to be much more noticeable. It really depends on what you want to do, and obviously now you can do something like this, which is again totally different. You gotta choose which you want to do, because right here you're showing elevation, right? With this type of strong drop shadow, you're showing the item is elevated from the canvas. With my design right here, it's just a small design detail. It doesn't apply actual weight. It doesn't actually imply that it's raised up significantly. But again, something along these lines may work as well, or something like that. So it really depends what you want to do. You have various choices, but definitely not a black stroke with such a strong drop shadow. Again, this is absolutely horrible. I know it's a pretty nice thing that you actually incorporated the logo into it, but overall it's not a good look. These businessmen in suits, these are so overrated. I mean, clients have been seeing these photos for the last 20 years, and it's something that's ridiculous, right? It's like me talking to someone on a page or something like that. It's just so obsolete, so outdated, it doesn't make any sense. I can see that you have a lot of problems with your Photoshop technique. Right here, it doesn't seem like these are aligned. As you can see, the headline is more towards the left. So overall, it seems this is rushed, right? So you have various different problems here and there, but overall, this is what I would say. This is rushed. You know, the main area is pretty good, so you might actually get 3 to 4 stars, probably 3. Let's not exaggerate. But overall, you have some pretty glaring mistakes. Woo, that's difficult to say. And the main call to action should be actually a bit bigger and should be a brighter color. Right here, contact us in the top right side. That's great. That looks lovely. But right here, you know, it just gets lost in this dark background. Let's move on. Next design. Ooh, okay, so this isn't good. I'm thinking you probably use the 960 grid system, which is totally fine. I know it's a bit outdated, but you know, a lot of people still use it. What you want to do, what you really got to do, is increase the canvas size to about 1400 at minimum. So this way, when the client sees your work, it becomes a much larger thing. It becomes much more immersive. It becomes an experience, right? Because that's the entire thing that you want to do in Photoshop. You want to make the client feel like the website is already coded. It's like a real thing that he can already browse and visit. When you're doing something that's this narrow, it totally breaks that illusion. So that's the number one thing. And it's a shame because you have some pretty interesting photos right here. I'm guessing that may be another reason why you chose to go for this narrow look, because probably the image didn't fit right, which is a common issue, but you really got to make it work, right? You really got to choose photos that fit. And again, I would even go as high as 1920 because most people nowadays use full HD. And that means that if you're going on, let's say 1400, you're still going to get about 500 pixels of empty space on either side. And again, that breaks the illusion that the website is already coded. So that's something you have to keep in mind. Now let's see, logo, generic logo, find the store. So these fonts, they look really, really small and fuzzy. I'm not sure why that is, but it's not something that I appreciate. It also seems like your vertical lines aren't really on point. Yeah, so you can see the cart is somewhere more towards the right. Find the store. I'm not sure what you wanted to do with it, but you could have placed it on the left side for more balance. Yeah, overall, you know, I'm at 100% right now, 100% zoom level, and everything seems so tiny, especially in this area. It's hard to use. So overall, even though the feeling is actually good, the vibe of the design is actually pretty good, I don't appreciate all these problems you're having with your size. Yeah, beautiful images. You know, an older client might give you a 3-star rating, maybe even a 4-star rating. But yeah, it's not really something that you should be proud of. There isn't one particular thing that's wrong with it. You know, you have a bit of an issue right here with your icons that don't match, like in the previous design. And your content is a little on the slim side because I'm not really sure, is this a store? It seems like it's a store, yet I don't see any prices. I don't see any deals, any offers. Yeah, so I think, you know, if you really want to put your finger on the problem, that's probably it. It's not really clear what this design is all about. I'm not really sure if this is something that you made just, you know, to practice or whatever, but if this is an actual client. But overall, this misses its mark. I can see the card system actually, so I'm guessing this is probably a store, but it doesn't look like a store. So just go to any website, whatever the website you shop, you know, whether it's Amazon, iHerb, or whatever, you know, Best Buy, whatever store that's available in your area, and check out how they place their buttons, how they show their deals, their prices. And then you're immediately going to see that while your execution is good, while your atmosphere is actually great, overall, the content just isn't there, you know. So, and that's really a drag because it seems like your design skills are pretty good. You've created a beautiful story here with these patterns, with these photos. But overall, you know, the content, it just seems rushed. Let's see, moving on. Ooh, this is a semi-transparent. This is a semi-transparent rectangle, and I'm not really sure why. If you would have kept it at white, this would have been beautiful. I love the photo. I love the main headline. This is a beautiful typeface. It's very well done. I love actually the color overlay. I don't like it. I love it. Overall, you know, this is a very balanced design. I like the social media icons in the top right. I think, you know, they're a great touch. The contact information in the top left, the main menu, this thing right here that shows you're on the home page. Just about everything is beautiful. You know, the size of the button, it's nuanced. This is a beautiful design. I love these arrows, the clarity of the rotator. So beautiful design, but this really, the header, it just breaks everything. And the fact that this logo is yet another shade, this is totally throwing me off. So it's quite a shame because you are so close, you know, 90% there, and then you just missed it. To travel is to live, so this is pretty nice. It's unfortunate that you didn't actually come up with a sub headline. I know that's a bit difficult to do, but you gotta put your time into it, you know, put your energy into it, and create something that's fitting. Because again, you know, imagine this headline as a lorem ipsum text. You know, it would have been rubbish, terrible. The entire design, the entire hero area would have been brought down. But now, because you took the time to actually create something, it's much more beautiful. You elevated it. But now, you know, in this area right here, not only did you use lorem ipsum, you actually didn't even format it, right? Because it's far too small, you know, when you compare it to the headline. It should have been wider. You should have had more line height, so the distance between the two lines should have been raised up. And obviously the font should have been a bit bigger, at least 4 points or something like that. So again, quite a shame you were almost there. I like this part right here. I think it's pretty nice. I'm not a fan of the drop shadow here. This is a pretty common problem. I totally feel your pain. It's decently executed, but overall it's not something that I would recommend, you know, white on white with a subtle drop shadow. In this particular case, you know, TripAdvisor does something, or at least it did something pretty interesting with a bar, you know, that span over an image and the content underneath. I'm sorry, I don't have it opened right here, but yeah, I'm not really sure what to say about it. One thing that's clear, you should use a stroke on these fields. I'm not really sure why you chose to include yet another drop shadow, because it's not a good idea to have a floating element and then a floating element above the floating element. So that's never a good idea to actually stack them, right? But overall, again, very nice, very clean. This area right here, again, it's beautiful. A bit too many circles right here, if you ask me. I love the button. The stroke is beautiful. It's exactly thick as I like it. Not too thin, not too thick. I love the headline. So yeah, overall, this is a beautiful design. I'm not really sure about these grays though. These grays, they're off-putting. Yeah, it's quite a shame. I'm not really sure why you chose to include gray, because there's a lot of gray on the background, and then you're using a pretty washed out one, and then for the hover state you're using nearly black. Yeah, so it's quite a shame. And again, I can see the fact that you didn't put enough energy into it, because I'm guessing this is something regarding traveling or hotels or accommodation or whatever. But it feels fake, right? You don't have any price, you don't have any ratings, you don't have anything whatsoever. So I can see that, you know, you were stumped. What should I include here? You just, you know, wrote a city name and that was it. So this is a common theme, you know, not taking the time to actually do your research. This is lovely. This is great. I would not use this shade of peach pink. I would use this color yet again, just because I don't want to introduce yet another color from a different chromatic palette. Ugh, this image right here, damn, it's so unfortunate, because again, you were nearly there. I mean, this is a classic 4-star design that can be a 5-star design with about 20 minutes of work. the image is a bit pixelated and this fadeaway is not a good idea. Keep it clean, you know, because this is what you did right here and it worked out great. Nice and crisp. Yet again, right here, you know, you have well-defined rectangles, but they work lovely. But here, you know, this fadeaway totally breaks it. It seems from a different design, and it just slapped it on this project. So that's not a good idea. Okay, this is yet again pretty nice. I do feel this isn't centered though. That's not a problem. This is the type of photo that I was talking about. So this is something that you would find on Team Forest. Again, it's pretty generic. It's nothing all that crazy, but it works. What I would do is include yet another line right here, because you can see that this difference, this empty space right here doesn't match this one. So what I would do is I would add another one right here, and that just totally makes it much more balanced, right? So overall, a pretty good design. I appreciate it. I think it's, you know, you can easily win different design contests with this skill level, but you just gotta make sure that different things are buttoned up. So it's that last 10% that actually makes the difference. Moving on, let's see. Oh, wow. Okay. This photo is actually terrible. This graphic or whatever this is actually terrible, and it's gonna off-put a lot of people. Green on gray, let's call this gray. Again, it doesn't work. Use 5 pixels, not the 10 pixels for the corner radius. It just looks strange. Increase your margin, because right here there's literally no space. What you should do is take this woman, place it more on the left side, and then give the headline, give the content actually space to breathe. Yeah, white, bolder, bigger, more line height, just 2.5 lines of text instead of 4, well, 3.5. Bigger button, smaller text, no green, never use any type of stroke if this is green. And this is actually a mistake on your end, because all these 4 things, these are not clickable. These are not actions. These describe how the service works. So when you add a color, it seems like, you know, this is a hover state, or this is something that the client or the visitor should actually click, and that's not the case. So pretty big mistake right here. Again, too much lorem ipsum, far too much lorem ipsum. You should have used some icons here. And you know, when you're dealing with 4 steps, you could just divide the canvas into 4 parts, and that would make for a much better look. Okay, and this is obviously the place where you could you know, increase the canvas size, so you have more room to breathe. But in general, this is how people do it. You know, if you have 4 steps, you could make it span the entire canvas width. Okay, so I understand what you want to do with these custom graphics, but they just don't make sense. They just, the colors, they're far too harsh. The amount of detail, it's not pleasant. You know, it just doesn't look nice. The tabs, this isn't something that's modern. So for 2019, this isn't something that you should be using. What we saw right here with this particular design, this is very much still in. So if you want to display content, you know, in a fixed area, multiple slides, this is the best way to go about it, not this one. I appreciate this particular thing, but it's not well executed. So in terms of your execution as a Photoshop designer, I can see that this isn't your strong point. This should be perfectly straight. This should be perfectly straight, and right here, this hump, it should have been much smoother. You don't need to make it as tall. You just need to make it, you know, maybe, let's see. Whoops. So something along these lines would be more than enough, right? But again, these sides should be perfectly straight. Yeah, and regarding the services, I mean, would you choose? And you just you just gave up right here. You know, well, actually, it seems like you didn't center these, the text with the icon, but at least you centered the icons themselves. But right here, you just gave up. You know, you just said, "Hey, it's the last one. Let's forget about it. Let's finish up." So overall, I know I'm not making fun of you. I don't want to be rude, but you know, these types of designs, they can be vastly improved if you just take the time to actually analyze each and everything, just make sure everything is centered, just make sure everything is well thought out. Because again, if you're into a maid, if you want to purchase the services of a maid, would this area right here convince you? I mean, really, would it convince you? So why would you expect the client to actually fall in love with this? Because again, remember, if you're working on 99 designs, the client is going to see a lot of designs from all sorts of other designers. So if you're thinking that, hey, I'm going to do an in-between version, something like a quick mock-up, and then if he likes it, and then I'm going to work on it some more. That's not how it goes. What you actually got to do is you got to give it your all. You got to put yourself on the line. You got to give 100% of what you can, and then you're going to have a fighting chance. If you hold back, if you're thinking, hey, let me just cut some corners, let me see what's what, let me just send a quick design and I'll see how the client responds, you're going to have a bad time. Because again, just look here. These are not lined up. So these icons are not lined up with what should be the center of the canvas. And again, the client isn't going to actually tell you all these things. He's just going to say a 1-star or rejected, or I'm not interested, or something like that. And then you're going to be stuck and you're going to ask, hey, Chris, why aren't I winning on 99 designs? It's because these things show laziness. And I'm not saying lazy like it's something like it's the end of the world, but you really got to fix these issues if you want to have a fighting chance. So I'm not going to continue because, again, it has so many problems, so many construction problems. This stroke right here is far too dark. It's far too thick. Yeah, nothing is actually aligned. And if you've been watching my courses, I fell in love with these alignment tools and I use them non-stop, and I constantly hit you over the head with it. How many times I actually do it in my courses is actually ridiculous. Let's continue with another one. This should be smaller. I like the font, but again, it should be smaller. I would place the search actually in the center of the page. I would not use whatever this is. Ugh. So yeah, you have a bit too many elements here, and that's not a good look. I can understand why this was challenging, but again, what you have to do is, first of all, please stay consistent with your icons. Please choose icons from the same icon set, especially when we're talking about social media icons. And what you gotta do is, again, look at any major mainstream website. Look at any e-commerce website that's massive, and then just steal their design. Steal it in the sense of, if they place their social media icons in the top left, place it in the top left yourself. If they place the cart in the top right, place it yourself in the top right. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. What you have to do is you got to make sure that, the basics, the foundation is there. After you have the foundation, you can then come in and choose different colors, different typefaces and whatnot. But right now you're playing with some things that are very dangerous. When you place the cart in a different position, when you place the social media or the phone number in another place where the end user might not expect it, you're gonna have trouble with it. And if you plan on using a slider, you really gotta make it span the entire width of the design. I'm not saying the entire 1600 width, but at least the active area, right? 1200 or whatever this is. So what you're doing right here is you're probably trying to show as many items as possible in the top region of the website, but overall the look isn't okay. And these images are from Shutterstock. First of all, on 99 designs you should be using Adobe Stock because that's directly tied into 99 designs. It's much more easy for the client. And again, the look is just off. It seems busy. It seems cheap first and foremost because of these. First of all, when you plan on doing these types of designs, you really gotta make sure that all the images are taken from the same place. If you're gonna have a white background, you gotta have a white background on absolutely everyone. Right here, you don't, and that combined with this one right here, it just throws everything off. It's off balance. Then the stroke, it's too dark, it's distracting. Yeah, it's a difficult design. I can understand what you try to do. This is probably a 2 or 3 star design, but overall I'm not feeling it. These should be much lighter. Actually, the opacity should be lowered to maybe about 20%. Decrease the logo size. This is not needed. These things right here should be again much smaller. So if you plan on using icons, I would use them something along these lines. So something like that. And then, you know, this splash of color, you don't have color anywhere in the design, and then all of a sudden above the footer you're gonna make a big splash. That's not a good look. That's not a good idea. So overall, I think what she did here, I don't think you actually spent enough time doing your research and getting enough inspiration. If you browse various websites, various templates and whatnot, you're gonna see there's a feeling of cohesiveness, and that's what's missing right here. There's not one particular thing wrong with it, you know. Again, you have different mistakes with the stroke that's too dark and whatnot, and the dash of color at the bottom. But overall, when you zoom out and you look at the entire design, again, it doesn't feel cohesive. So what I would do is I would do some more research. I would use the correct stock website, Adobe Stock, and then I would have another go at it. But definitely with this slider right here being full width, and maybe raising it up just a bit, because what you did right here, because of the big logo, you actually stretched yourself out. So with having 750, so all this extra space right here is not needed. So what you have to do is you gotta make this smaller, and then all of a sudden you're gonna get at least 50 to 60 pixels reduced from this area's height. So that's about it. Whoa, difficult. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you want to get your design reviewed, jump on Discord and upload your work. Thank you so much. This is Chris signing out.